Most people want to talk about Amazon as a product, and the product on Amazon is actually the data, not the physical product itself. So what we want to be careful is not getting into the volume and vanity metrics of revenue and how many units I sell, but getting into the profit and sanity of cash flow. Hire fast, fire faster. Build in standard processes and procedures for the way you do things so that you can replicate them.
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Well, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, there's one thing I can hopefully extol from my story today, and that is the truth that it is never the right time to start a going concern.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Ethan Cassiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. His name is Neil Twa. He is an investor in e-commerce brands, entrepreneur, speaker, author, and host of a top 5% globally ranked podcast. Neil is the CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings, a company specializing in launching, consulting, selling, and acquiring brands with a focus on the e-commerce channels such as Amazon, FBA, and multi-channel. More than 15 years of experiences of selling private label products on Amazon and his company. For over 17 years, Mr. Twa has been constructing businesses both online and offline after departing his senior IBM role. And since 2012, he's launched 5+ personal brands, generated tens of millions in revenues as 8-figure sellers, and assisted in the growth of 1,000+ others through consulting, coaching, and mentoring alongside partner Reed and their Voltage team. And Neil, together with Reed Larson, published a new book titled Almost Automated Incomes with FBA, Build a Profitable Lifestyle-Driven Amazon Business, Exit for Millions, even without any e-commerce experience. The book is a groundbreaking guide that has swiftly claimed the #1 spot among new release books. And this manual is the key to building a lucrative lifestyle-driven Amazon business that expertly guided Mr. Twa and Larson through the intricacies of Amazon FBA, offering invaluable insights and strategies to pave the way for a profitable venture. Welcome, Neil Twa, and thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Ethan, thanks for having me, brother. That's a mouthful, dude. You made that look so easy.
Thanks, mate. You've got a lot of accolades there, and I've read a lot in my time. And I actually used to create intros for people before bios were a thing. So, you get used to reading them out and aiming to.
I'll borrow some of your mojo for my podcast. We'll talk about that later. That's a good mojo.
Nice, mate. Oh, hopefully I can get on yours, and I'll give you some tips. We can help each other out, right? That's what business is all
about. There
you
go. Let's share and share alike. All right, that's awesome.
Love it, mate. Well, I'm sure it's going to be an awesome show for everyone watching and listening today. And you are a successful entrepreneur. So for those people that don't know who you are, just introduce yourself by telling us a bit more about you and your journey.
Well, successful in my mind is varying levels of success. I haven't reached some of my goals just yet. And so I consider myself successful because I've been at this for 17 years and I haven't given up yet. That's one level of success, right? The next level of success could be financial or monetary. Mine was getting my family as a focus of my life and being the purpose and value driven guy as opposed to just the profit guy, and building that into my lifestyle. And we live in the country on 50 acres. We homeschool our girls. We drive purpose and value and entrepreneurship into them and the local community that we're a part of through our homeschool co-op, even teaching entrepreneurial courses every Friday to the local group, or we're going through that process right now. So purpose and value have been a big part of my life in that way. And that's toned kind of into the way that I do my business. And it took quite a while to get here. I left a corporate gig in 2007, which was very much focused on, being a number, hitting a mark, and doing the performance nonsense. And I realized that just wasn't going to be the rest of my life. So I burned the boats. And when the time came, they were like, hey, you can leave. That's awesome. And I'm like, great, I'm out of here anyways. So it was perfect time to jump out and go forward without fear and, walk out on the water and see what happened. And of course, it wasn't easy. And it wasn't the most successful launch of a new business. My wife and I got married in that March, and by June I was unemployed. And then by September, we found out we were pregnant with our first daughter. And then by December, she was on bed rest and couldn't work anymore. So that first year was a banger. People always wonder, is it the right time? Do I have money? Do I have everything in place? And the answer is no, you never will. So stop thinking about it and just go, just jump, right? Just be careful to not burn bridges in the process. You can burn the boats, which means never going back. And I never wanted to go back. I spent 200 days a year traveling. Prior to that with IBM, last year I was there, was 200 days. I can't keep that up, right? I didn't want to be a part of it. Didn't want to build a family around it. Didn't want the life involved in it. Didn't want to be those guys I saw in the last tables around the final dinner who were calling their families and talking about the things they were missing and the events they were missing. And I had a little bit of grace given on me to kind of break a mindset at that point and really step out, because my entire life was built around work. My dad was a hardworking guy, taught us about work and ethics, didn't really teach us about money and stuff. And so I kind of went through the work and ethic path of the W-2 and all that success. And that was, worldly success in my parents' eyes and other people. But for me, it was just never fulfilling. It was never fulfilling in my soul that I needed to do these things myself and get out here and be what I could be and prove to myself that I could do it, and not, take the risks that were required to do it. And I just did it. So in that process, I found my way through a number of business types and models, and high tech and oil and gas and mobile and online advertising and affiliate marketing and eventually e-commerce, as kind of a last step of that product-based digital market into the physical product market, and started in 2012 on Amazon and kind of never looked back. I love the ecosystem. I love what it stands for when you do it right. I hate some of the idiosyncrasies. I'm very pragmatic. I'm not a fanboy of the system. It has its challenges, and they can screw you over at times if you're not doing things right, and others in the marketplace can do that. And we'll cover probably all of that on this call, to be very, pragmatic about what it means to sell a physical product and do it on Amazon or Shopify or TikTok shops or wherever else you sell it, and really understand the numbers and the conditional phrases and what the heck you sell, and how to make it profitable, and not to marry the products or the business, and be careful with that. And to make sure people actually find your product, get traffic on it, get sales, because that fixes everything, right? And then how to actually build it into a going concern that in 3 to 5 years could become a generational time or wealth freedom exit by selling the business asset you created. So those are the things that, have been impactful for me, impactful for my life, and impactful for others that are around me, and have really built some great businesses and a fun opportunity to help others and build my own companies at the same time, and even acquire. We're in acquisition mode now too. So we're out there acquiring brands at this time as well.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thanks for sharing all of that. I love it. I'm in, looking at acquisition mode as well, which is a great way to grow apart from organically, right? And I love the story, where you're living now, the big change, and the entrepreneurial side of things, which I've got a young son now as well of those learnings that we didn't get right from our parents.
Yeah,
that
100%.
we can pass on, which is amazing, to give them the best possible chance of creating value in their own way. So I love what you're involved with on that side. Just talk about, I want to talk about this transition, right? Because, like you and me, I quit my job and started my first business. And I think, you do multiple business, you try a lot of different things, right? At the start, and you had a lot of challenges there. When you started to create success, what did you think was key in terms of that shift? Were there some mindset shift? Were there some actions and habits that you were doing? What do you think was key there that, really made you start creating momentum, right? Towards where you wanted to be going?
As I started working through the process of kind of getting my mind out of time and trading time for money framework that I'd been stuck in, it was still a process of deprogramming myself out of that mentality over the years after I stepped out, to, starting a consulting business and trading time for money, but doing it at higher amounts of money, a little bit more control, because I, build my own hours as opposed to having a company. I was making more money, but I was just living in a nicer glass house with, more billable hours. So I was still trading my time for money, and I hadn't understood the way that you can use money as a force multiplier instead of something that you hoard. See, when we are in this limiting scarcity mindset belief of being a number with a paycheck every 2 weeks or every month, you get into this pattern of repetition that builds limiting and scarcity beliefs into your system. And you may not recognize that's what you're doing. And some of you may be nodding your head, and others may be arguing that that's not the truth for you. And that's okay. It's different for everybody. For me, I realized that I had to start and train myself away from the idea of hoarding money and making more for myself. And instead, how did I pour back money into the system? How do I put money to work? How do I move the, Kiyosaki quadrant, if you will, even though I never read the book in the past? When I was going through this process, I stumbled upon somebody who allowed me to be a part of a shadow kind of mentoring with them at a company in Tulsa. And I learned a lot about the small business, the sales, the delivery, the results, the relationship driven aspect, and the way he was using money as more of a tool for his business. And I started to really see it differently. I started to see it in more abundance. I started to realize that there's more than enough money, a stupid amounts of money out there to get access to. You are just not close to it at certain times. You just don't have availability to it. And for that reason, it feels scarce and unavailable, and like there's none of it, when in actuality, there's tremendous amounts of money flowing everywhere, right? And so as I started to realize that, I was too focused on the tool, the hammer, I wasn't focused enough on building the house. And with that, did I actually need to be swinging the hammer, or could I hire somebody to build the hammer? And then my goal was to get the house completed. And while that sounds simple, putting yourself in a different role and moving yourself into more of the strategy and operations and working on the business, not in it, it's very difficult to shift that mindset. And so many business owners get into a business and still get stuck working in the business up to, say, 2 or 3 million a year, and wonder, why can't this business get to 5 and 10 million a year? The hard thing for me was to realize that I was the linchpin. Okay, I was the thing holding it back. I was the thing restricting it from growing. I was the thing that was keeping it from reaching the next levels. And mainly because I had that idea, that little bit of narcissism, I think, that business owners get when they get to 3 million a year in sales, and it's they're the primary practitioner and accomplish that cool thing. They then start to hoard the knowledge of being the only one that knows how to do it. Does that make sense when I say it that way? And with that hoarding, they don't trust or put time and energy and attention into those who could be replicated into the process. And so they have this idea, and so did I once upon a time when I realized this was the wrong way, that you need to go hire an A player who knows how to do this. And if that A player comes in your business, and even if you pay them a lot of money, they're going to be the one that saves the business. You put a lot of effort on focusing that responsibility onto somebody else, when in actuality, that's an amateur maneuver. Because when it happens, that maneuver is something that you even don't know enough about what you don't know yet to understand what they should be doing, how they should be doing it, how long it should take them to do it. And you're just like, well, you're the A player, you should know this. And so what happens is you get into this quagmire of managing people and expectations of things you don't understand. And then you start frustrating and pissing off the A player who's like, well, I don't want to be a part of this. You don't get it. And you lose them. What you have to figure out is where the B players who are strong and want to be there, and then you could train them into the processes and maybe train them into an A player who grows up in your business. And we started to take that mindset and shift, and I started to look for the people who I could become A player partners with. And I bumped into somebody through a mutual connection in 2012 named Reed Larson. And with Reed and I, an hour on the phone call, realized his A player was not my A player game. He was over here at the creative financing. He had never had a job. He had a lot of opportunities. He thought about money differently. He thought about finances. He thought about the business of money, the creative financing differently, the operational things very differently. I was very much into the marketing and the building and the narrative and the storyline and the brand building side of it. And we realized, we were two halves of the same coin, and let's come together and try to build one brain out of this. And with that force multiplication, I was freed up to not do the things I was very good at, and he wasn't either. And so we were free to kind of do what we were good at. And with that, we were able to then eventually bring people in to our system who now manage a lot of components of it, operations and marketing components and other systems and software development and stuff that now are in their verticals, controlling their lane. And that creates this replication of growth and scale that keeps, me from not being a lead practitioner or the smartest guy in the room anymore. And that's a hard learning lesson with some major failures in it. I mean, this room is full of my failures. Actually, you could probably see the success somewhere in it, but it's got a lot of failures stacked up in here too.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's the gold, right? That's the shift that needs to happen for most people, from an identity, from mindset, beliefs, and then finding the people around you, right, that complement you, whether it's partnerships or, however you structure that within your business as a team to then get you to where you want to be and just get out of the way, to speak.
Just get out of the way. And I discovered what the hell to sell. And at the end of that, for me, with physical products and private label brands, I could then use this more ADHD, like squirrel brain that I have that I need to keep sort of focused into one vertical niche, where in it I can squirrel out, if you will, all of these different things we're doing, different brands, different narratives, different types of things we're doing within the brands, and that we control the ones our clients are doing, the ones our partners are doing, even the ones we're acquiring. That keeps me very fulfilled in a vertical where I'm not over here doing something I'm not good at. I'm not spreading time and energy out too far. It's a amateur move to try to do 5 different things in 5 different areas as opposed to focusing into one. It's that limiting scarcity mindset that keeps people from shaving off all the nonsense and only getting down to what is it I'm at. Some people jokingly call it, their superpower or whatever. And really for me, it was I could build a brand around a narrative. I understood the technology that Amazon was using. It's ranking, the marketing engine, the PPC engine. I understood it really well. And with that, I was able to help us build, as my part of it, a 7-figure brand by 2014, if you will, 2014, 2015 on Amazon, get my dates a little fuzzy there, where we hit our first 7 figures. And from there, you unlock that first 7 figures of system and replication, and then stacking software and things and processes into it. It's much easier to replicate or show other people how to replicate it, which is what we started doing as we started to grow forward and just keep launching brand after brand in that and staying in that vertical, and just focusing, right? And staying focused when other people were being distracted.
Yeah. Love it, mate. So powerful. Let's get more into the crux of it now. And I know that you have,
Yep.
I guess, 4 steps to building a real profitable, sustainable ecom business, starting with private
Yep.
label on Amazon FBA. So tell us more about this.
Yeah, it's very critical today. We focus on the profitability with Amazon's burden, as we refer to it, which is a combination of fees and storage fees and other fees they put together in different ways. The referral fee, their FBA fee, we call it the Amazon burden. That burden has grown as inflation has grown, as chains and supply chains have changed. For a while there in 2020, it was very dramatic because the first quarter of 2020, our 40-foot container costs went from 4,800 landed on a 40-foot container to 25,000. So you talk about fees. It changed very dramatically during that growth period of that hypergrowth side of the code experience. So that has obviously come back down, but what it learned for us and taught us that we really needed to re-elevate and shift our brands forward, specifically in Amazon, to get us into a place where we could meet the burden, meet the market, meet the profitability, and grow a brand. When you hear a lot of the narrative of Amazon FBA taking all your money and stealing your bank account, and it's horrible to work with them, you will typically find people in the wholesale, the low-end private label products that are more volume than profitability based. You will typically see, I said wholesalers already, I think. You'll see the retail and arbitrage and online arbitrage guys, the shop your way to wealth people, the side hustles and that kind of stuff that are avoiding the costs of private label, because that's where the real money is at the end of the day. And it costs more money to get into it. So they typically resist it because they're trying to go after shorter profits. And then they bump straight into Amazon, who has spent the better part of the last decade moving themselves into a brand-based engine. Okay, all the way through end to end, brand-based products and high-end products, or becoming a high-end product, is what they're shooting for. They don't want to be Walmart. They don't want to be eBay. They don't want to be these other platforms, and they spend a lot of time getting there. People keep jacking with their system, so they keep rejecting them, and so it makes for great cannon fodder on the interwebs to have the gurus out there screaming about, Amazon. When in actuality, when you're spending a retail price point of $50 to $500 in retail on that platform, there's a lot of profit to be made there. And you can cover the fees and cover the marketing and get your net profit. So we typically, when we talk about what the hell to sell, we're typically looking for products that are 50 to 150 to 500 in retail price point. They must have what we call by the numbers, more than $12 in net profit per unit. Okay, they have to have no more max than 35% landed cost of goods, and they have to fit a specific buy box of product type, or we simply don't sell them. Okay. We don't sell them because we know with shipping and fees and logistics and PPC cost and overhead and final taxation and stuff to get to the net profit, it's not a sexy business when you're running $1.50 in net profit per unit, even if you're doing it 10,000 times a month. What you've done is created more cost, overhead, and logistics that are actually putting the business in the negative, right? It's putting it in the red. So what we want to be careful is not getting into the volume and vanity metrics of revenue and how many units I sell, but getting into the profit and sanity of cash flow that is based on what I can keep, what I can reinvest in the business, who else I can hire, and how much more marketing I can deploy into taking over market share. So with Amazon being a fulfilled by Amazon infrastructure system, it really focuses us on the ability to automate some of that process and information, because Amazon's engine is handling the fulfillment, the customer, the last mile delivery, and all of that stuff. So what are we actually doing? What is a seller supposed to do when they're figuring out what the heck to sell, and when they're actually figuring out the numbers to ensure that it's profitable? They're selling data to an AI engine. Okay, we sell listings to an AI engine, and our goal is really to be the best data brokers on the platform. Does that make sense? Most people want to talk about Amazon as a product, and the product on Amazon is actually the data, not the physical product itself. And this is where people kind of get this mistaken for this platform. They reverse this process and they flow product to R&D down to market, and then how am I going to actually sell it, and then how am I going to get Amazon to think I'm the best product? They kind of got this whole thing inverted, and I want to flip it on its head today, right? It is about the need of the product that is in the market, that is already in demand, that is being captured on that platform, and getting you to understand what that need is, put a product in front of that need that's in demand, and simply do it better than the other sellers. Okay. And there's typically only 25 to 60 sellers in a particular node area in which you're selling a single product that you have to compete with to take that volume. And the volume of searches for that particular product in that node, if it's between 2 and 20 million, then you know exactly how much of that volume is necessary for you to take over 1% of the market share. These metrics inside of Amazon's engine determine how fast it propagates you across the platform, how much more marketing it shows of your product versus others, how much more exposure you have in the marketplace. So when we're testing these products and going, first, what the heck do I sell as a testing process, then defining the numbers to ensure profitability of the product in the marketplace after all fees and burdens is to not marry the product. Because you will know with 80% confidence what the product is, the trend, the demand, and all of these things, but you will not marry and should not marry the product. We don't marry the product until it reaches certain metrics and goals. When it reaches certain metrics and goals within a 90-day period or less, we will say that that data set is maturing enough to tell us that I can put 1,000 units into it and go to a full product launch, and let's actually open the throttle on this and see what it's really capable of doing. It's because it's an organic engine that also has a PPC component, pay-per-click strategy. I want to make sure I combine the strengths of those two things inside of this one platform, because it is the assets by which I can create longevity, higher organic search than PPC marketing, and then overtake market share and year by year growth within the market. I can unpack that some more or stop because that's getting in there, but those are kind of the three things. It gets down to the internal economic engine, Amazon being literally a stream of traffic running 24/7, 365, and demand for individual SKUs. And we have to get in front of that demand, and it's a big AI engine. Most people are trying to sell products to it. You should be actually selling the data.
Yeah, I love that data side of things, of flipping it. Oh, that's really, really powerful there. You mentioned there around like selling, 2 million to 200 million or whatever it was in terms of like products, right? Like in that particular, area there. So is this like information available easily on Amazon to find this out? Or is there ways, you know what I mean? Like, how do you know that you've got something that's at least got a lot of demand, let's call it,
Yep.
on the platform?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of tools out there. You probably heard of Jungle Scout. There's Helium 10. There's AMZ Scout. There's probably 50 others of those. I developed one of the first ones out there in the market called ASIN Inspector like 10 years ago. And so with that data and analytics and what I've come to realize is so many of those tools out there focus on mass marketing bestseller niches that end up in departments and categories where the majority of Amazon new sellers through courses and programs are going to end up. When you get in there deep enough and long enough, where you discover is the brands and the top sellers and the business builders, we don't go into those locations. We go above them. And so the data tools and stuff out there that have been used don't really give us that data set we're actually looking for. So we built our own out of originally spreadsheets and data and processes of analytics from our own seller account, our client accounts, brands that we were running in the market, and where we could kind of get data estimations because we couldn't get the 100% of the data picture because Amazon didn't give it to us until 18 months ago. And they released something called Product Opportunity Explorer. And inside of Amazon's seller platform, once you're brand registered, you get access to the seller platform. There's what's called a Product Opportunity Explorer. Inside of there, they now show us customer need, data, demand, product types, market share, keywords, search volumes, and other things that they never showed us before, straight from their own back end. They hid it for a long time. But with brand and brand analytics and a business, you can get access to that, right? And then they've all launched some new category level style stuff just recently in terms of their dashboard views. Gives a little closer understanding of where to kind of pivot the product and data. They still don't combine all of that data to give us 100% of the picture. That's where our Greenlight process and tool set was developed to combine the product and category data that Amazon now gives us with our own seller information database, 10 years of metrics, and information we compiled into what's called the GLS Plus dashboard, where it gives us a complete view, what we call also a voltage score of that product, its customers, the amount of search volume, the profitability, and other things that go green, yellow, or red in our dashboard, green, yellow, or red. And with that, we basically follow the blinky lights. And it's all data driven at the end of the day. If it's demand, it's green, the voltage score matches. I've done this enough times that I have implicit trust in our data. And with that, we use that to launch the products and grow the businesses and to launch new brands, or existing, brands will launch new products by going in and really dialing into the the need, the segment, the demand, the data set, and then the product will appear, right? And with that, we know we can go ahead and test 100 units in really quickly and find out how close we were and see if the market actually answers and responds as expected.
Yeah, awesome, man. I love that. So powerful to know. Yeah, you're going to be hitting the highest possibility there, right, with the test, and then ideally to scale.
90% probability.
Yeah.
Yep. The 10% variance is whether or not we missed something in Amazon through an image, a stack, a listing, a conversion metric point, at which then we have to go in and dial in the metrics of conversions.
Yeah, it's massive, right? 90%. Great way to test, and then it's like ramp it up from there.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned around like private labeling and that, right, with the product. So
yes.
once we know that we've got a green light here, and we've done some testing. You mentioned about private labeling, like getting that product out there. Like what's the ideal method, so that we're getting something that's quality for that high profitability, numbers that you were talking about.
Yeah, because private label is where people sort of buck a bit because they know they have to buy inventory first and then sell it. And the print on demand world is a little more sexy. The idea you can flip some an existing product, you can go get it off the shelf, you can move a little faster in the launch or growth, initial growth stages of any other mechanism, but private label, it makes it kind of sexy. But at the end of the day, from a scalability, what's called an economies of scale, those top out very quickly. And having ran one of those vertical divisions in our business a while back, we got to 8 figures very fast, but it ended up with 21,000 square foot of warehouse and 10 truck rolls a week and 12 full-time employees. So we basically worked ourselves into a job. So the outcome of all of those is that automation and controls of automations and the movement of product become more difficult, more labor and laborious, and they can end up costing you a lot more because our triple net was somewhere around 5 to 7% on that organization, where our private label brands can get to 20 to 30% net profit. Okay, with a lot less time, no employees, no warehouses, none of that other nonsense. Now, the burden obviously is we have to buy product. So by which you don't want to go order 5,000 units and wonder what the heck is it going to do? Is it going to sell? Am I finding the right person? You don't want to break open a nest egg or crack a 401k loan open or whatever and risk that capital without some sort of understanding of how it's going to be used in a growth pattern. So with our 5x5 methodology, the goal is to get 5 products in the market and test them with 100 units of physical product as quickly as possible. So that's our first risk into the market, is to take a private label brand and have 100 units, manufactured for us of these different product types where we see the data segments tell us to go with 80, 90% confidence. We put 100 of those in the market and then we get the data back. Okay. Those products in the market, statistical relevance being if I put 3-5 products in the market, 1 or 2 of them is actually going to take off. Data-wise, I got close enough. I understood the market share. The conversions were right. It was the right product. It was the right situation. On average, 1 or 2 of them will take off. Law of averages. The other 3, will sell to some degree. 1 may not sell at all for its life, so you're stuck with 100 units or something that's going to take a little longer to get rid of. And the other 2 will sell, and with some optimization after testing, they just don't sell enough. You didn't quite hit it right, and you let them sell through and recoup the inventory as quickly as they are, and they're done. The other 2, we're gonna up 1,000 units into the marketplace. We're going to then R&D, usually 3 major factors of change to the product before that 1,000 units is manufactured, and then put that product in the market with those changes. And the 3 changes usually come out of the test segment. From customer data and feedback and understanding, we'll take up to 3 to 4 changes to private label or customize, which is the big difference, customize that product into its unique packaging and then sell that 1,000 units, knowing that we're going to go from test to growth to profitability. Okay. It's just a matter of following the data. It's a lower risk way of finding out where to deploy my capital and where the business and the brand is now aligning in the marketplace for my potential. Okay. If not, what typically happens is you get the bug in your ear, you want to get going. Somebody tells you order 2,000 units of XYZ product for $19.99 and says, hey, all your hopes and dreams are going to happen, get going. And you're sitting on that product for 5 months and it's barely moving. And you tried all these off Amazon things and you tried all these gurus and you hired 2 other people to help you and it couldn't run. And come to find out at the end of the day, you can't sell the thing and the whole thing crashes and burns in months 6 and 7. It's a repetitive story with this marketplace. And I want to avoid that by people really understanding what occurs. In our model, we want people to deploy a minimum of 25K in capital to the market. Okay. Why? Because at a tier 2 level concern, when I'm not selling a $9 product, I'm moving out of the marketplace of saturation, Chinese competition, price gouging, and all this other nonsense and a lot of review heavy based requirements. And I'm moving into a tier 2 avatar who is more solution oriented. They don't always look at the amount of reviews. They're not as price conscientious. They're looking to solve a problem. They're looking for a solution. They've already understood the problem. They had their reaction time based on an issue, a pain, a problem they're trying to solve, an opportunity they're trying to gain, or something they're trying to do as a part of life, a creative, an activity, a family thing. And they're looking for that product that's going to solve that problem. And they know it's going to be there in 2 days or less, or maybe an hour. And then they're going to start solving that problem with that solution. And they're going to buy 60, 70, 80, $150 products, no problem, right? To get to that. And with that, we know we've got more profitability. We got a tier 2. We know roughly however 90 days in our cash flow plan, we're going to turn inventory on that one SKU. And we also know that one SKU can become hundreds of SKUs when it takes off, because we can brand variation like Apple does, borrowing from retail, and go in and build out a base pyramid of all the different kinds of iMac, iPhone, iWatch, iPad here, an extra i there, and there we got the iMac there, and you can just keep widening that out. We widen that product base out until we have 7 or 10 SKUs in a hyper relevant seller account under a hyper relevant brand servicing a very specific market, going after 1% minimum of that market share. So we can become laser focused. And as Good to Great says over here, we hedgehog down into that ground once we figure out where it is, and we just keep digging until success is boring, literally, because now there's not much to do with systems and automation being handled, tools that are watching and helping with PPC automations and management, and redundancies with supply chain now in place, and manufacturing and redundancies. We're kind of just watching blinky dashboards and dealing with the exceptions, and answering customer support every once in a while that falls out of Amazon, or just dealing with supply chain logistics and PPC marketing.
Yeah, awesome. Good. The simple problems to have, and watch the cash coming in. And I guess it gets to that
watch
point,
the cash flow.
Yeah, cash flow, what it's all about. I love Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. It's one of the first key books, actually. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Side note for me.
Oh yeah.
Changed the game in the cash flow quadrant, and I actually got to share the stage with him when he came to Sydney in front of 1,500.
Oh, very cool.
People, which is cool. Yeah,
neat. Yeah, he's a good guy. My business partner knows him. He used to run his events for him before he became really big. And when he was doing events, he was doing that. And I didn't actually even know about the Rich Dad Poor Dad till much later on, like maybe 10 years ago. And it come to find out as I read that book and went through the quadrant understanding, and like, oh, I get it now. That's why these things are happening to me. Or this is what I understand about risk and reward, and when you move from one level of risk to gain one more level of reward. I understood why I was willing to push things when others were not. My dad was not the poor dad. He was a hardworking guy, spent 30 years in his job, provided for our family. He's a wonderful man, lives here. He's 82 years old and lives just down the hill from us, and we get to see him as much as we can. And he's a 2-tour, Vietnam vet from the Navy. And he's just, suck it up, buttercup, crawl into the cars. This is dad. In our house, money's a 4-letter word. We don't talk about money because that disrespects dad. If you want anything else, you got to figure out how to get it on your own. But he didn't ever teach me the principles of money and business and finance or any of these kinds of things. We weren't entrepreneurial in that way. But my aunt married a gentleman who was. So my uncle, my marriage, became someone who became my rich dad. And later on, as I got through the idea that I really wanted to get out of the corporate world by 2005, unfortunately, he got into an ultralight aircraft wreck. He'd been mentoring me. We've been having phone calls. He'd been encouraging me at that point to look at franchises to get started in, just because I could make the leap a little easier and be trained in the business because I didn't have the experience. And he was very encouraging. But it took me about 2 years to kind of buck that off, figure out what I really wanted to do, and actually, take the leap of faith in 2007. And it was because he taught me to be more abundant in my thinking, to really be more radical in the way I thought about money and people, and to stop hoarding.
Yeah, I love it, mate. Definitely all about abundance in the way of thinking, which is so much out there. And you mentioned about exit before, right? I think this is a big one for business owners generally. Correct. Because, yes, we love cash flow, and cash flow is important for us in life. But at some point, we may want to get a capital event and get a big exit. And you said that there was, a way to do this, right? So I guess what's possible for people if they're building this Amazon FBA type business? What's possible, for an exit perspective here?
Yep. So there is let me be very clear, an Amazon business, quote unquote, is really an overused terminology on the internet, kind of like passive is overused. It is a single sales channel that you have when you're running on Amazon. Okay. Until you actually build a holistic e-commerce company, do you not have something that really becomes a saleable asset? When you have additional channels of sales, marketing and direct response, other ways of inbound traffic buying from you and capturing customer data and retention of data and customer lifetime values that are on an ecosystem around Amazon with different channels supporting it. It could be Wayfair, it could be Walmart, it could be Shopify on your website, it could be TikTok shops, it could be another sales channel. Do you not have a full business? At that point, when you start to break into these additional sales channels and create a holistic e-commerce company, you have a going concern that becomes an asset. Okay. And as you're building that asset up, it's of course valuation increases. If you're just selling an Amazon sales channel only, you're going to get a lower multiples of exit. Okay. Usually on the seller discretionary earnings or SDE. And you'll typically see that around 2.5 to 2.8 on the mid to high range. If you're doing a really good job, you might see 3 to 3.2. If you're doing a super job on the last trailing 12 months with products and brands and market share and other things that the buyer can see, really have upside potential for continuing to deploy more capital or more marketing greater than the original owner was able to do. And I'm speaking as a buyer, someone who's actually looking and buying companies with my private equity group right now. So when we look at these companies, we're requiring holistic channels. We need more than 5 years of sales history in the business. We look at the last trailing 12 months, not the projections of hopium that would be the next 12 months. We looked at the practicality of the model, including its market share and its ability to supply and the type of product that is being gained, and of course the different sales channels within it. And that changes the valuation on the multiples of that valuation in that company. If it's multiple sales channels, it could be 3 to 5x. If multiple sales channels are now balancing across not one leading like Amazon's 80% and the other channels are all 20%, you could see 5 to 7 or 8x, especially if there's subscribe and save on Amazon or you have subscriptions and recurring revenue on one of the other channels, okay, for your website or whatever. If you're building up that recurring revenue, if you got that additional customer data, that increases the multiplications in the business and could go as high as 15x, okay? So it really just depends upon how much value you're plugging into that company. But for us, a real company is a minimum of 5 years age. Okay. If it's growing concern fast enough to see that it's kind of a unicorn, it'll be within 3 to 5 years. Typically, it needs to have at least a minimum of $500,000 in profit in it, or we prefer to see 2 to 3 to 5 million in profit before we will consider it. It needs that time and stability and market share and profitability become a great concern. So just to be clear, to summarize that, you can sell an Amazon FBA only sales channel. Just know you're going to get kind of a lower number for that. All right. Especially after the aggregator issues of the last 5 years and the amount of the capital that was deployed, the amount of issues they had, what they kind of destroyed as trust in the market share by the way they were doing it. And by the way, we went out to take a portfolios division to market and stopped, raised over 50 million in capital from a couple of home offices, saw that everybody was buying like 40% above market for ridiculous product types and brands and said, oh, we're out. Like, we're stopping this, put a halt on it. Like, we hit the emergency brake in November 2021 and never actually took the capital and deployed it because of those reasons. And now that as we move forward and there's a mission behind this, a business is a mission now, it's called Patriot Growth Capital. And they are veteran backed and focused and operationally controlled. They helped 16,000 veterans last year through a number of charities. To support them in their walk and their life and their in and out of the military situations with them and their families, and support them through that process. And part of this initiative that we're now working under to acquire these companies is to bring in veteran operators, to train them over 3 to 5 years to become CEOs of the companies that are acquired and give them an opportunity to acquire those companies from us after 5 years. So that's creating a more of a business mission than the original focus, which I really love about this because there's some super, super wonderful people we're involved in now. And it's going to give them operational capacity with voltage to go out, train and hire and manage these people as we acquire these companies.
Yeah, awesome, man. I love it. So powerful with the multiplication of exits, multipliers, as well as, I love the mission as well. Now that you're doing with the private equity and helping people to go along that journey with you and share, which is amazing. So I love
more,
that, mate.
Right? Don't hoard.
Exactly. There's plenty there for everyone. Abundance, right? Like we've been talking about today. Abundance. So and I know you've got your book, Almost Automated Incomes with FBA, build a profitable lifestyle-driven Amazon business, exit millions, even without any e-commerce experience. I know you've got a special thing for us today. So you want to quickly tell us about that and how we can get it?
Well, anybody enjoying the conversation who's still listening to me, thank you. I appreciate it. You've been an amazing host, and obviously you guys are excited, hopefully, about e-commerce. If you are and want to learn more about it, go check out the book. There's a link below here. I believe it's a free copy for the link that will give out 10 free copies of the book. It is a strategy guide, if you will, to go through the different chapters. There's 15 of them with 15 different subject matter experts I interviewed as a part of my podcast that we formed into this book. The foreword was written by a good friend of mine, Kevin Harrington, who was one of the original sharks on the Shark Tank and has a huge amount of experience in the physical product and branding world. You guys might have heard of him and might have heard of the Shark Tank. So it's super cool to have him write the foreword. And we really just talk about the practicality of what we call an as seen on TV and demand capture experience of building innovations of products over inventions, and then taking them out into places like Amazon FBA, et cetera, and building them into marketing and business. We talk about the finances. We got case studies. We got free tools and resources that you can glean for that book. You can get the digital asset as well as the paperback copy if you want, and really just dig into that reading and learn more about the strategy of our 5x5 and our product launch playbook that will help you really understand the business aspect of this. Again, it's not a tactical guide. Some people think it's like, well, it's going to show me how to open a seller account. No, those are tactical things that a 19-year-old high school dropout can learn. Ask me how I know, because we taught one who went to multiple 7 figures a month. It is not the tactics of an operational e-commerce company that actually makes the money. It sustains the business. It is the strategy and the product and who you're selling it to that actually makes the money. And that is the key that is unlocked in that book.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds like an amazing book. I'll definitely be checking it out for myself as a venture. I'm sure I'll get into some point. And yeah, we've got the link below, guys. Discount code. We've got a special one, business growth, one word. Definitely check that out and get those free copies for you. I think there's only 10, so make sure you grab them.
There's 10. Yeah,
which is awesome. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up here today, mate, you shared a lot of awesome value. What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Well, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, there's one thing I can hopefully extol from my story today, and that is the truth that it is never the right time to start a going concern. It never will be. You can plan your way around it. You can think your way around it. But while you're doing that, someone else is already acting and executing on it, and they're going to be 10 steps ahead of you. So you've got a chance in this life to do the thing. So take the opportunities and forget the excuses, because that will be, opportunity will begin at the end of your excuses. So get out there, stop making them. I don't have enough time, figure out the time, be resourceful. I don't have enough money, be resourceful, figure it out. If you're ever going to want to change something about your current life and structure and get into a business model that has upside potential, that can create a family and home life environment, can create alternatives to time freedom and even generational wealth opportunities, I found e-commerce for me personally, and the ability to teach it to other people who have become successful, and there are plenty of case studies for you to check out, is a great way for beginning and aspiring people to get into an actual tangible business that is worth something in the end. It's not vaporware. It has physical products and inventory, and it is an asset that you are building. So treat it like one, not a side hustle or a hobby business. If you're an existing business owner, same thing. Most times I see that you get to 2 to 3 million a year in sales, and you are the linchpin of your business. And your biggest concern is who to hire and where to put them. All right. As Colin says again, it's what seats get put on the bus and which ones get off. And you're usually not great at force replicating yourself and creating force multipliers of yourself. It's very critical that you figure out that skill set. Okay. Figure out that skill set, hire fast, fire faster. Build in standard processes and procedures for the way you do things so that you can replicate them. Always, last piece to you who are already entrepreneurial, build in your OKRs. You cannot get from 3 to 10 million without objective and key results for each of the roles in which you will replicate yourself. And in Amazon, there's really only 5 critical roles. You should know what they are if you're running that channel, and really kind of e-commerce across the board. There are OKRs already built in. Welcome to ChatGPT in the AI world, or Claude. Go out and ask them what an OKR is and define one for your business and have it help you create it. Put it in place. 3 results, 1 main objective for each part of the business. You put those frameworks in place and you go from 0 to 100 in products, which just about anybody could do, to millions and deca millions in business, because you have systems and processes, technology and automation in place. And you won't ever get there without those things. Okay. So those are your opportunities. That's your gauntlet. Throwing it down.
Yeah, love it, mate. So powerful. So yeah, we connected through our network. So I learned about, your awesome journey from, coming from nothing, from flying all over the world to, starting the businesses initially, having that rich dad or uncle, so to speak, Robert Kiyosaki
Yes.
style to help you, and then just having a go at it, right? Testing it out, and then finding something that you really love in terms of that Amazon FBA. And now not only are you doing that at Creative Success, but now teaching others, and then the private equity space and all of that. So it's a really awesome story, mate. And I'm sure, you're an awesome guy, shared so much value. I'm sure you continue to help people, on your mission as well, to be part of that journey, and very grateful, that we connected, and I look forward to working with you as well, mate, and then hopefully partnering together. So, Neil, how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Yeah. So obviously the book, it's on Amazon, surprise. So you can go search for almost automated income and you'll find it as well. You can go to our website, voltagedm.com, voltagedigitalmarketing.com, or you can check me out on any of the major social networks. Yes, my last name is Twa. You will find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or out playing around on Facebook, where you can reach me and have a conversation, check out free presentations, check out my podcast, check out the information and resources. We got a lot of free stuff to help people get started, including templates and training that you can get as a part of that website, voltagedm.com.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love it. Very, very powerful. Definitely, everyone, check out Neil, all those things, his free book. The codes are all below, the websites, the socials. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, mate. And thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
You're a wonderful host. Thank you for having me on, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Ethan Cassiotis, or visit my website, ethancassiotis.com. If you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.